Have you ever been talking to someone every day, only for them to suddenly become distant? The conversations become shorter, the replies become slower, the excitement begins to fade, and before you know it, it feels like a completely different relationship. If you've ever experienced this, you're not alone. Few things are more confusing than watching someone pull away without explanation, and the uncertainty often hurts more than the distance itself. Welcome back to Insight Vault, the place where we uncover the hidden psychology behind human behavior, relationships, and the choices that shape our lives. If you enjoy psychology, self-improvement, and understanding why people do what they do, make sure to subscribe to Insight Vault, because every story holds a lesson, and every lesson begins with a single insight. Now let's open the vault. One of the biggest misconceptions people have is believing that someone suddenly pulled away overnight. In reality, most emotional distance happens gradually. The signs were often there. We just didn't notice them. A delayed reply, less enthusiasm, fewer questions, less effort. Small changes that slowly add up over time. The problem is that when we're emotionally invested, we often focus on what we hope is happening instead of what is actually happening. One of the most common reasons people pull away is that the excitement begins to fade. Human beings are naturally drawn to novelty. New experiences feel exciting. New friendships feel interesting. New relationships create anticipation. When something is new, our attention is naturally heightened. But over time, the mystery begins to disappear. The connection becomes familiar. And familiarity can reduce excitement. This doesn't necessarily mean the person never cared. It simply means excitement alone is rarely enough to sustain a lasting connection. Another reason people pull away is emotional overwhelm. Sometimes life becomes difficult. Work becomes stressful. Personal problems begin piling up. Responsibilities increase, and people start conserving their emotional energy. When this happens, communication is often one of the first things to suffer. The difficult part is that from the outside, it can feel personal. We assume they're avoiding us. We assume they've lost interest. But sometimes they're simply trying to manage challenges we know nothing about. At Insight Vault, we believe one of the biggest mistakes people make is assuming they know the reason someone changed. The truth is, most of the time we don't. And when we don't have answers, our minds create stories. Stories based on fear, stories based on insecurity, stories based on past experiences. Unfortunately, those stories are often worse than reality itself. Another common reason people pull away is imbalance. Healthy relationships require effort from both sides. When one person is always initiating conversations, always making plans, always carrying the relationship, eventually the imbalance becomes noticeable. People want to feel valued, they want to feel appreciated, and they want to feel like their effort matters. When relationships become one-sided, distance often follows. Sometimes people pull away because their priorities change. This is one of the hardest realities to accept. People grow, people evolve, people develop new goals, new friendships, new responsibilities, and sometimes the role you once played in their life changes. It's not always a reflection of your value. It's often a reflection of where they are in their journey. The problem is that many people interpret changing priorities as rejection, when in reality, life itself may simply be moving in a different direction. Perhaps one of the most painful reasons people pull away is because they struggle with difficult conversations. Not everyone knows how to communicate honestly. Not everyone knows how to express uncomfortable feelings. Some people would rather create distance than explain what's bothering them. Rather than discussing problems, they disappear. Rather than communicating their feelings, they withdraw. While this behavior can be frustrating, it often says more about their communication skills than it does about your worth. The psychology of pulling away teaches us something important. people's behavior is often more complicated than it appears. What looks like rejection may actually be stress. What looks like indifference may actually be confusion. What looks like distance may actually be fear. This doesn't mean you should ignore unhealthy behavior, but it does mean that assumptions are rarely helpful. Here's the truth many people eventually discover. You cannot force someone to stay. You cannot force someone to communicate. And you cannot force someone to choose you. The more you chase someone who is creating distance, the more power you often give away. Instead, focus on what you can control. Your mindset, your growth, your self-respect, your future. Because the healthiest relationships are not built through chasing. They're built through mutual effort, mutual respect, and mutual choice. The next time someone pulls away, don't immediately blame yourself. Don't assume the worst, and don't allow another person's behavior to define your value. Sometimes people leave because of reasons that have nothing to do with you. Sometimes people change. Sometimes life changes. And sometimes distance reveals truths that words never could. What do you think? Have you ever had someone suddenly pull away? What happened? Share your experience in the comments below. Here at Insight Vault, we read every comment and love hearing your perspectives. And if you enjoyed today's video, don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on notifications. Your support helps Insight Vault continue exploring the fascinating psychology behind human behavior. Thank you for watching, because every story holds a lesson, and every lesson begins with a single insight. We'll see you in the next video.